Hey, history buffs! Welcome back to Riddle in History. You're locked into the right frequency if mystery, thrill, and a splash of medieval drama are your cup of tea. Today we've got a cracker of a tale for you. A young king, a deadly disease, an ancient city. But hold on. No spoilers. You know the drill? Hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. Brace yourselves, folks, as we unravel the tale of Baldwin IV, the legendary Leper King of Jerusalem. The early life of Baldwin IV. Buckle up, folks, because our story takes us back to a time when power, faith, and the might of a sword determined one's fate. The year is 1161. We're in Jerusalem, an ancient city of stone and secrets, and the birthplace of our protagonist, Baldwin IV. Born into the illustrious family of the Amalric I, King of Jerusalem, and Agnes of Courtenay, young Baldwin was destined for greatness from the start. But fate had a twist in store. Imagine this. You're a prince, living in grandeur, with dreams of jousts and battles. Then one day you wake up with numbness in your arm. That's right. Our young prince was just 9 years old when he first experienced the insidious symptoms of his impending malady. Leprosy, an illness feared and reviled, seen as a punishment from the heavens. A sentence of a life of pain, and worse, isolation. But here's where our tale takes an interesting turn. You see, leprosy didn't spell the end for Baldwin. Far from it. Rather, it seemed to ignite in him a spark of determination, a resolve to defy the odds. Our prince was turning into a fighter. And what's more, he had a realm to rule, a kingdom in need of a leader, destiny still calling him despite the cruel twist of fate. So at the tender age of 13, Baldwin IV ascended to the throne, bandages, scepter, and all. Thus began the reign of the Leper King, a tale of strength, courage, and resilience that turned the tides of history and defied the very expectations of life itself. But as we know, no tale of greatness is without its trials. Stay with us as we journey further into Baldwin's remarkable life. Trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. Rise to the throne. Imagine this. A boy of 13 years sitting on the throne, the crown heavy on his head, the robe too big for his slender shoulders. But this was no ordinary boy, oh no. This was Baldwin IV, a boy born to rule, a boy destined to be king of Jerusalem, and let's not forget, a boy with leprosy. Baldwin was not handed a kingdom at peace. No, he inherited a hot mess of political turmoil, external threats, and a kingdom in desperate need of a hero. But Baldwin, oh, he was more than up to the task. Now you may ask, how does a 13-year-old leper boy deal with all that? The answer, with cunning strategy, a hefty dose of courage, and a dash of youthful audacity. One of the many threats he faced was Saladin, the Sultan of Egypt and Syria, a man feared by many. But our boy King Baldwin, he looked at Saladin and saw not an unbeatable enemy, but a challenge to rise up to. And rise he did. With strategic genius that would make the finest generals proud, he managed to quell the internal squabbles plaguing his court, all the while readying his armies for the inevitable clash with Saladin. The odds were stacked against him, the stakes high. But this leper boy king led his outnumbered force against Saladin in the Battle of Montgisard, and did the unthinkable. He won. Defeating Saladin, that was Baldwin IV, the leper boy king. Because you see, Baldwin wasn't just a king. He was a fighter, a strategist, a beacon of hope in his kingdom's darkest hours. And despite his disease, despite his youth, he rose to the challenge and cemented his place in history. And all this, at 13, makes you wonder what you were doing at that age, doesn't it? A king in battle. It's one thing to wear a crown, and quite another to lead an army into battle. But what if I told you Baldwin did both? All while his body waged a brutal war of its own against leprosy. Let's dig into this a bit, shall we? In 1177, a massive Muslim army led by the formidable Saladin moved towards Jerusalem. Their goal? To recapture the city from the Crusaders. Yet standing in their path was a 16-year-old, the Leper King, Baldwin IV. Now, if I were a betting AI, my money wouldn't be on the ailing teenager, but Baldwin was no ordinary king. He had a heart forged in the fires of perseverance, and a spirit that soared above his debilitating disease. With a vastly outnumbered army, Baldwin did the unthinkable. He attacked. The Battle of Montgisard turned into an epic David versus Goliath showdown. Baldwin's unexpected offensive left Saladin reeling. Against all odds, Baldwin's forces crushed Saladin's army. This was not just a military victory, but a triumph of the human spirit. For Baldwin, it was a message to the world that he was more than his disease. He was a leader, a warrior, a king. History has a flair for drama, doesn't it? Here was a king, marked by a debilitating disease, yet he outmaneuvered one of the greatest military minds of his time. That, folks, is what I call a plot twist. And that's the tale of Baldwin IV, a leper, a king, a true warrior. In our next chapter, we'll explore the twilight years of his reign and how he ensured the survival of his kingdom even as his health failed him. Stay tuned. A King's End. Ah, the final act, the endgame. Every chess player knows its importance, and every king must face it. As we've been unraveling the tale of Baldwin IV, we've seen a boy become a king become a warrior, and a warrior defy all odds. But as the sand slipped through the hourglass, our leper king too was running out of time. The year was 1183. Baldwin IV, that indomitable lion of Jerusalem, was only 22 years old. But the young king's body had borne the brunt of leprosy's cruelty for well over a decade. His vitality waned, his strength wavered, his iron grip on the reins of his kingdom slackened. In the spirit of a true king, even in decline, Baldwin had a plan. He wasn't about to let his beloved Jerusalem fall into uncertain hands. His sister Sibylla had a son, a lad named Baldwin V. And so, in an act of foresight and strength, our leper king passed on his crown, while still alive. Imagine it, my friends. A coronation ceremony that was both a beginning and an end, a celebration and a farewell, a promise of continuity amidst the uncertainty. Can you sense the bittersweet taste in the air? The whispering winds carrying tales of a brave king yielding to his mortal enemy, not a Saracen sword, but his own ailing body. 2 years later, in 1185, Baldwin IV, our leper king, breathed his last. His body, finally succumbing to the relentless disease, gave out. But not before he'd set the stage for his successor, ensuring the survival of his kingdom. Baldwin IV, even in death, was a king, a fighter, a warrior who, despite the cruel hand fate dealt him, left a legacy that reverberates through the annals of history to this very day. Thus, our journey through Baldwin IV's life draws to a close. But fear not, dear history adventurers, for every end is just the beginning of another tale. As our leper king found his rest, the stage was set for another chapter, the reign of young Baldwin V. But that, my friends, is a story for another day. Until then, keep the past alive. Remember Baldwin IV. Remember his courage, his resolve, his story. And remember, the past is never truly gone. It lives within us, waiting to be unraveled. And there you have it, folks. Baldwin IV, a king with an iron will encased in a crumbling body. He didn't just wear a crown, he bore the weight of destiny itself. Remember to click subscribe and share if you fancy more historical unraveling. Stay curious, stay courageous, and let's keep the past alive in the heart of the present. Until next time, my time-traveling companions, happy history hunting.